Hello viewers of Biotechnica, this is Caroline Green. Today's video is going to be for CSIR aspirants. So develop a topper's mindset for CSIR NET examination. Today I'm going to talk about the top 10 tips for all of you. So how does a topper actually succeed in CSIR NET examination? So I'm going to talk about the complete thing. The first most important thing that I would suggest is going and checking in for the cutoffs. Cutoffs are very important. So analyze the previous year cutoffs. How much is the percentage for the general, how much is for the EWS and for BC and for SC and for ST, how much is the cutoff for JRF especially and for LS. So if you're going to do an analysis of the previous year cutoff, you will come to a conclusion. If you are in general category, how much percentage of cutoffs you need to have. Accordingly, you can start preparing for the examination. So the first important thing is analyze the previous year cutoff. So you can see it over here. This is an analysis of the 2021. So you can see in life science, if you are an if you want to take for UGC JRF, very specifically CSIR UGC JRF NET, then or the general candidate should have almost 98% cutoff, and EWS 96% and OBC 96.229%, SC 90.53%. So whenever you go in for studying for CSIR NET examination, you can always observe that toppers will always look in for how much percentage of cutoff they need to acquire. So you should have a target. If you're belonging to OBC, suppose let's take, if you want to qualify JRF, then almost you need to have 96 to 97% of cutoff. So always this cutoffs are variable. That's the main reason you have to analyze the previous year cutoffs and accordingly come to a consolidation of those cutoff and study accordingly. So this is the first important tip that I'm going to tell you. The second important tip is strategy and planning. Yes, each of the individual has their own strategy. So usually most of the toppers usually follow this strategy and they plan it. So let's talk about the strategy and the planning. The first important thing I'm going to tell you is revise the most confident units only twice a week. This is the most important thing. Suppose if you are very confident in unit number 1, 2 and unit number 4. So you just have to revise those units not every week. You have to revise it twice a week. Twice a week if you're going to revise it, then it is very good enough. And what are the units that you should not miss? So first unit, molecules and their interaction, the most important unit. The second unit, cellular signaling, fundamental processes, third unit, and the fourth unit is also important. And the fifth unit is developmental biology, very specifically plants and animals. And the eighth unit is inheritance biology, and 10th and 13th you should not miss, which means I'll be talking about what are the units that you can skip also. And most important thing is for every day, keep at least 2 hours for question and answer practice, because it's not important that you learn something and you read it and you understand the concept. How you're going to use that concept and analyze the question and answer those question matters a lot. So if you find most of the toppers usually practice lot of questions, so which makes you to finish the examination within the stipulated period of time and makes you to analyze the question. So what you can do, you can analyze the question and then you can also study the concepts. So what type of questions comes in the examination matters a lot. So almost spend some 2 hours for Q&A session. The next is going to be everyday plan. So every day you can make a plan like this. So divide the day into 3 parts, like most productive, moderate productive, least productive times. So in most productive time, which means your mind is very set free and you can learn many things. So use it to study the new concept. Suppose if you're going to spend the whole day, let's take it as an example as a Saturday where you have a holiday. So what you can do is take up a time, suppose morning 10 to 12 is your most productive time, morning. So what you can do is during the 2 hours of your time, you use it to study the new concepts. Whichever you have not studied it in your masters, you study those concepts. And moderately productive, yes, you are feeling to study but not very much. So you can use it to revise certain concepts, or you can start solving questions on part C. Take up a question and then read the question and then understand the question, and if you know the answer, you answer the question and see. If you do not, take the book and study the concept back again, and then you start solving the question. By this, you're not learning something new, but you're taking some part C questions which you already know, and or else you can take up some of the units that you have already known. And the least productive unit is the time where you really don't want to study, or if you feel like you're very tired but you wanted to study. So practice part A questions. This time what you can do is you can take up some numerical problems, aptitude kind of questions, and you can take an app, or you can just take some previous year question papers and start solving an aptitude based questions. And what subject related animation. If you're very much feeling like very bored up of not doing anything, you can watch subject related videos. It doesn't mean like 24/7 you have to watch an animation videos. You do have to do all these things. So accordingly you can prepare your plan. The next important thing I'm going to tell you is unit-wise strategy. For Unit 1 to Unit 13, what are the topics that you should never skip? That's the most important thing. So I'm going to talk about these complete things in detail. So first, let's talk about Unit number 1, which is molecules and their interaction relevant to biology. So here, I'm going to tell some of the parts, subdivisions that you should not skip very specifically. So 1D, which is Principle of Biophysical Chemistry, pH, buffer, reaction, especially thermodynamics, colligative properties, you should not miss. And of course, the most important part is bioenergetics, which starts with glycolysis, Krebs cycle, pyruvic acid decarboxylation, Krebs cycle, and then ETC, oxidative phosphorylation, and coupled reaction, which is the link reaction, and group transfer and biological energy transducers. This is the most important part. These parts you should not skip, or which means you have to study these parts first. The next is, of course, enzyme kinetics are very, very important. So principle of what is catalysis, enzyme and enzyme kinetics, and how the mechanism of enzyme action works, and what are isozymes. All these things you have to study. And most important is all the metabolisms like carbohydrates, lipids, amino acid metabolism, nucleotides, vitamin metabolism. These are most important in case of Unit 1. And for Unit 2, which is cellular organizations, so here you have to mainly target C, D and E part. So C is organization of gene, what is chromosome, what is chromatin, what is repetitive DNA, what is interrupted genes, and what is the structure of a chromatin, chromosomes, chromatin fibers, chromatids, heterochromatin, euchromatin, transposons, the jumping elements. And you have to study about the cell division very specifically, starting from the interphase, the mitosis and meiosis, and how these cycles are controlled. And when you're studying this, you can take up the Unit 4, where you will be studying about the apoptosis. So what you can do is you can study 2C, 2D, and you can study apoptosis together whenever you study cell division and cell cycle. It will be kind of easy when you're going to correlate and study. And 2E is microbial physiology, where you will be studying about the growth heel, the strategies of cell division, and the stress responses. So these are most important ones I'm going to tell you. The third important, of course, fundamental process. And so here you're going to study about how RNA is synthesized, how the RNA has been processed in case of eukaryotes, and what is translation and post-translation modification, and the regulation of gene expressions, which is B, C and D are the most important one. And Unit number 4 is cell communication and cell signaling. Here you're going to study about the 4D part and E part, which is immunology part. And of course, as I already told you, you'll be studying about apoptosis. So when you're studying apoptosis, you can study along with the Unit number 2 part, which will be very easy for you to correlate and study. The next is Unit number 5, animal developmental biology. So you start off with gametogenesis, zygote formation, and how cleavage is formed, blastula is formed, how an embryo is generated, and you have to study about sea urchins, everything together. So morphogenesis and organogenesis in case of dictyostelium, differentiation over there, and Drosophila, chick, and vulva formations, and of course you'll be studying about the C. elegans also together. So this is all important part, which is B and C. And in case of plants, very specifically developmental biology in plants, you'll be studying about the plant life cycle, microsporogenesis, megasporogenesis, what is apogamy, apospory, and of course you'll be studying about the vernalization. You'll be studying what is photoperiodism. After studying vernalization and photoperiodism, you have to study ABC model, and then of course flower signaling. All these things you have to study together. So whenever you study Unit number 5 plant part, you have to study along with the phytochromes part, phytochrome, cryptochrome, vernalization, photoperiodism, everything together. So it becomes a bit easy for you to correlate and study. The next is unit number 6, which is system physiology in plants. Here you will be starting off with what is photosynthesis, light reaction, dark reaction, non-cyclic, cyclic, and what is going to be dark reaction. In dark reaction, we'll be studying about the reductive HMP and how it is regenerated, and then you'll be studying about very specifically the C4 pathway, Hatch-Lax pathway, CAMP pathway, and then you will also be studying about the photorespiration pathway, and then what are the factors that are influencing this, and you'll be studying about the carbon dioxide compensation points, Warburg's effects, everything you'll be studying. And respiration you have to study starting from glycolysis, aerobic, anaerobic, citric acid, pyruvic acid decarboxylation, linkage reaction. And if you study biomolecules metabolism, it will be very easy for you to remember this one. Citric acid cycle. So you can do one thing, you can study unit number 1 metabolism, and you can study plant physiology, development biology in plant part along with plant physiology also, you can study it together. Unit number 2 and unit number 4 you can study it together, very specifically signaling along with immunology part, along with the cell division and apoptosis part you can study it together. Of course you have to study all the plant hormones. And the next is sensory photobiology. So sensory photobiology, you can study it along with developmental biology in plants, because there you will be studying about photoperiodism, vernalization, and ABC model, ABCDE model. So everything comes based on this one only. So you can correlate and study this unit. The next is unit number 7. In unit number 7, system physiology in animals, you're going to study what is the first circulatory system of human beings, like blood and circulation. So you'll be studying what is blood volume, blood groups, hemoglobin, hematopoiesis, hemostasis, immunity, everything together. And cardiovascular system, you'll be very specifically talking about ECG. ECG is an important question. And then what is blood pressure, myogenic heart, and what is cardiac cycle, what is sinoatrial node, AV node, everything you will be studying. And respiration, most important thing I'm going to tell you is how the respiration takes place, how the gases have been transported, how the exchange of gases transported, what are the volumes that are there. So IRV, all these things you'll be studying, and how it has been regulated. And after that you have to study endocrinology part. Endocrinology part is the most important part in system physiology. So endocrine systems completely you have to study. This has a correlation with the human, very specifically if I have to talk about developmental biology in animals, has a correlation in this one, because we study gametogenesis, spermatogenesis, oogenesis there also. So it will be very easy if you study this along with that also. Next is digestive system is also important. So this is for system physiology in animal. Next is molecular basis, or we can say genetics or inheritance biology. So here A, B, C, D parts are most important. You can see A part, Mendelian principles. B, what are alleles, pseudo alleles are important. Complementation test most important. You will have questions based on this. 8C, codominance, incomplete dominance, and the deviations from Mendel's law, which is like pleiotropy, penetrance, phenocopy, linkages and crossing over, recombinations, lot score, sex linkages, all these things are important. Here, gene mapping, linkage map, tetrad analysis is very important. And these are the most important things. So A, B, C, D in inheritance biology is very important. I, J, K are also important. The subunits I, J, K are also important. This is for unit number 8. And for unit number 9, if you see, taxonomical classification of all the microorganisms, plants and animals are very important. They will be asking. And phonetics and cladistics are also important. And unit number 10, if I have to talk about, so this is ecology part. So here you will be studying about what is niche and what is resource partitioning, and population ecology, where life history strategy, RNK selections are very important, and species interactions you will be studying about it, where communalism, mutualism, all these things you will be studying it here. And finally you will be studying about the community ecology also. This is the most easiest unit that I can ever say. And the 11th is evolution. In evolution you can study mechanism, population genetics, Hardy's-Weinberg's principle you can study, brain behavior, and human evolution you have to study. The next is applied biology. In applied biology, plant tissue culture, agrobacterium tumefaciens. So you can study agrobacterium tumefaciens with plant physiology, nitrogen metabolism. You can study it together. It's going to be very easy if you correlate and study it together. Gene knockout strategy and transgenic plants and animals together. Next is methods in biology. Methods in biology, of course, you have lot of molecular biology techniques, you have immunotechniques, you have biophysical techniques. So A, B, C part are very, very important. So this is the unit-wise strategy. So when you go for certain units, choose the topics which has been repeated first and study those topics, solve the questions, and then go for the least important topics, and then you can strategically solve the questions also. What are the units that can be correlated and studied together? As I already told you, unit number 2, cellular organization, and unit number 4, cellular signaling, which has immunology part, are always related. So study unit number 2 and unit number 4 together. And you can study unit number 1 and 6 also together because it has the metabolism say. And the next is fundamental processes and 8th unit, because 8th unit deals with genes and DNA. So you can study 8 and the 3rd units together also. And unit number 5, plant part, which is developmental biology in plant and plant physiology. Unit number 6, you can study it together. The next is developmental biology in animals. Very specifically, I talked about the gametogenesis, spermatogenesis. You can study with the system physiology in animals, reproduction part, or endocrinology part. The next is unit number 10 and unit number 11. You should study it together so that your preparation becomes easy. If you study 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, almost 8 to 9 units you can cover by just linking the units and studying the correlated units together. That itself is very good, because if you're going to solve almost 9 to 10 units, if you're going to cover it, it's very easy for you to crack the examination. So what are the scoring units? I'm going to tell you where you get direct questions from. So the scoring units are going to be definitely 2nd unit. Cellular organization is the scoring unit. And 4th unit, very easy unit, cellular communication and cellular signaling, where you will be having the signaling pathways and you'll be having immunology part, apoptosis part, all these things together. And of course, unit 5 is the most important unit, I can say, developmental biology in animals and plants. Unit number 6, definitely diversity of life form, 9, 10 and 11. So if you're going to study, of course, one is a basic unit, you have to study those units, but direct question usually comes from these units. Directly you will expect questions from these unit. The next one is, what are the units that you should never ever skip? So first unit, biochemistry, is a never skip unit. Second, you should never skip. Third, never skip. Fourth, never skip. Of course, fifth also I would suggest never skip unit. Sixth, 8th and 13th. So you can just write 5 or 6 together, which is, so you can start off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and then 8 and then 13. So this itself can give you almost 8 units together. What are the units that you can skip? So you can skip system physiology in animals if you are studying plant physiology, and 9th and 12th unit you can skip. So these are the units you can actually skip. So this is something which is very, very important. The next is implement some scientific way to study anything. So how you can study is you can use some 20% read and 80% recite. So you're going to take a book, you're going to read a concept, and after reading the concept, then you're going to recite what you have studied, which is like a revision practice. As you do a lot of revision, you can easily remember things. That is 20%. So use some tactics to study this one. Next, you can follow some famous technique where you're going to teach someone and you're going to learn something. Next, retrieval practice, where you're going to retrieve and you're going to practice things. And space practice is like you're going to study it for one time, you're going to revise it and then study it again. So it's like a space practice, or you can use some color code notes, like highlighting onto the points, and you can just use some color code notes. So implementing some of the scientific ways to study is the best thing ever. And the most important thing is spend more time on self-study. Yes, this is the most important thing I would suggest for most of the aspirant, because everybody teaches you and everybody tell you how you can strategically solve question, but the most important person who is going to write the exam is you. So spend more time on self-studying the concept and practicing lot of questions. If you're not going to do self-study and practice lot of questions, it would be a great win even if you have the best teacher ever. So spend a lot of time on your self-study. The next one is revision. So I'm going to give you an idea of how the toppers can actually do it. So spend at least 5 hours on your study daily, 5 hours. And allot 1 hour for your revision. So almost 1 hour for your revision, 1 hour for practice questions. take important topics first and revise it. That's what I tell you. If you're going to go in for genetics, if you're going to go in for unit number 2 or unit number 4, first understand what are the topics that's been keep repeating. So study those topics and solve the question, and then you go in for the rest of the topics. As soon as you complete the topic, revise it instantly. Immediately you have to revise it faster. And perform combined revision of the topics which you studied during the whole day long. So what you should do is, suppose you have studied one concept, you are going to revise those concepts and start solving question. And the complete day you might have revised some or studied some 5 to 6 concepts. So at the end of the day, revise all the 5 to 6 concepts. And whatever is taught on the same day, study it in the same day. Do not ever keep it in the next day, so it will be piled up. And the most important tip, and I'm going to tell you, is follow all the points that I've been telling you. That's the most important point that I can ever say. So these are some of the toppers' mindset for clearing CSIR NET examination. This is some of the top 10 tips for all of you. So what do you think that the best thing that you ever got for CSIR NET preparation? So put it in the comment section. Thank you all of you for joining.